In your business and perhaps your life, the tomorrow that you desire and envision may never come to pass if you do not end some things you are doing today. Welcome to Saying Yes Again,
a podcast about second chances, real love, and opening your heart after heartbreak.
We're your hosts, Dr. Lisa
and Tony,
a midlife couple who found love after divorce. And now we're here to share our story.
And to remind you that it's never too late to say yes again.
So put on your headphones and listen closely, because your next yes could be the one that changes everything. That is a quote by Dr. Henry Cloud. So I love interviewing our guests because we gain so much insight from them.
Yes.
And remember, we just interviewed Dr. Nicole Rochester, who shared her story of divorce and also her story of reinventing herself and also empowering women to tap into their own intuition. So she recommended on that podcast episode this book called Necessary Endings by Dr. Henry Cloud. And you, babe, were so gracious enough to buy the book for me because I really did want to read it. And I started reading it and just was so fascinated by this thought of that some things have to come to an end. So when I read that particular quote, I immediately thought that this just doesn't apply to business because, you know, he's a psychologist and a leadership expert, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it just does not apply to business, but it also applies to a divorce. It could apply to dating. It's about healing. It's about all the things in our life that basically, you know, we have to look at and see where some of the things in our lives may have to come to an end.
Exactly.
And it's about why so many people say they want a new life, but they still end up holding on to and carrying the old one. So some people have to decide, you know, whether they're going to keep that thing or keep that something that isn't really working, or if they're just going to let it go.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I think it's important for us to talk about this. And I know for me, you know, I'll start and share my story, and then I'm sure that you have some stories of some necessary endings as well. But, you know, I just didn't have an end to my marriage, my 25-year marriage.
Okay.
But it really was, you know, an end also to my identity, to my habits, to even my friend circle. You know, it was ending to a lot of things. So there were some things that I had to let go of, right? Because that marriage had come to an end. But I also recognized that this happened also in my career as well. You know, I talk openly about going through burnout, you know, during my 20 plus year history of being a physician. And you know, that in and of itself was a very painful moment, very painful period. And I had to step away for a second because of that burnout. And I had to kind of realize when that had to come to an end. You know, not a complete halt, but it definitely had to just kind of slow down and stop a little bit. So, you know, I kept thinking, I think, through all of those things, like most of us do, that if you just work a little harder, if you work a little longer, if you try to fix it, you know, maybe it will get better. But maybe the thing that we have to think about is maybe it's time to just end that thing.
And that's the fascinating part that you bring up, Dr. Lisa, is that realizing that's just a chapter in your life that has expired and it's time to move on. One of the things I want to ask for a little bit of clarification from is you mentioned after your 25-year marriage, it ending in divorce, and there was some like a community, friendships, etc., that you felt the need uh, to end some of that stuff. Was it because you ended your marriage, or those things that were a part of your life, they were just at an ending or at a place or in a space that didn't need to continue on? So because there may be some people out there that may feel like, well, some of these things I don't feel like I need to do away with.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I think it's going to be different for everyone, right? It just depends on your situation. I think for me, a lot of things did end because the marriage ended, right?
Okay.
So, even for me, like I moved, so I wasn't even in the community, where I used to be. So a lot of those associations maybe,
Okay.
or groups that I was in, had to end just because of that geographic location change, but also because, the marriage ended as well. There was some like habits maybe that I did when I was married that I had to let go of that I didn't do anymore. I share the story about going into Costco and shopping like I'm
Oh,
shopping
yes, I
for
remember that. I remember
for
that.
4 people, and now I'm, like, shopping for 1 person.
Yeah.
So, and those are just some minor things, but certainly a lot of things do end as a result of.
Okay.
Then there are some things that I think we have to decide whether it's time to let go of. So we have to
Okay.
make the decision about that as well. So, yeah.
Okay. Now, you also mentioned professionally, you had gotten to a point where you were just, I guess, at wit's end, and it was time to kind of move on.
Mhm.
In what ways do you feel like that benefited you, et cetera? Can you kind of expound on that?
Yeah. So I think again, it's one of the things that, now that I'm kind of on the other side and now that I am sort of like reading this book and hearing other people's perspectives about kind of, what happens sometimes in your life, back then I really didn't have the mindset, I think, to really embrace the fact that it was okay to let it go and to end. Again, I was a fixer. I wanted to fix the situation. I
Mhm.
wanted to work harder. I wanted to, you know, just try to make this thing work, right?
Mhm.
But at
Mhm.
the end of the day, burnout pushed me to the point where it said, okay, I'm either going to shut you down or you're going to have to
Yes, yes.
make a decision.
Because burnout will
Yes.
shut you down if you don't
Yes.
know how to kinda, you know,
Mentally and
disengage.
physically.
Yes,
Absolutely. Yeah.
exactly,
So yeah,
exactly.
so I had to make that decision, right? That it was okay to kind of let it go at the time and sort of think about what I wanted to do from that point. Was I going to continue or was I going to pivot, and do something different?
Mm,
Yeah.
okay. And how did that feel?
It was scary. It was very scary. It was scary. A lot of it is just the unknown because you just
Yeah.
don't know what's coming next. So it definitely was scary, but I think that it was also freeing. It was very freeing to just have an option to know that if I let something go, that it was going to open up opportunities for other things to kind of come as well.
And that's the thing that we don't think about.
Yeah.
When we're going through that transition from letting things go,
Mhm.
we become so accustomed and so attached to these things that we're so fearful about letting them go, not understanding it's time to grow.
It's time to grow. Yeah, time to grow
I
and
I
change.
experienced the very same thing. I had to kind of, assess some friendships, being a seasoned gentleman, as I often say, wanting to have, after I healed and went through the clinical aspect of my divorce, some healing, etc. If I wanted to grow into a space where I was beneficial to myself at a whole different level and to someone else eventually, I had to realize I had to take inventory. Sometimes we have to take inventory.
Mm,
Who am I keeping in close proximity or into my inner circle for no reason whatsoever? And at times, not even realizing whether this is detrimental to where I'm going and growing to,
mhm,
etc. So a lot of the single folks that I used to hang out with, no slight to them whatsoever. It's all about me and my growth and wanting to be in a different space, So I had to kind of sever ties with some people.
mm,
There's some family relationships. This is the very painful one to discuss. I love all of my family. Friends are included in my family. The biological relationships. But some of those are just a little bit, a little bit more toxic than
mhm,
what we would like to be a part of. And you have to get to a point and realize that, your relationship isn't going to go anywhere. The amount of love that you have for people is not going to change, but where you're trying to go you have to realize when that ending has to happen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
unfortunately, some of those things had to happen,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
I know. It's one of those things that it's just really hard,
Yes.
right? But as painful as it is, it's a necessary thing to happen, like you said, for you to be able to expand and to grow, right? Some things, you know, people or certain things, I say people and things, right? Whether that's a career or something else that you're doing, may be blocking. It may be a block to your next step.
Yes.
And unless you
Yes.
kind of take inventory, like you mentioned, of those things that are in your life at the moment, especially when you realize that you're kind of stuck or you're not getting to the next phase that you want to get to, what is it that's blocking you right now? Like, what are those some of the things that you're gonna have
Yeah.
to let go of, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, definitely important for us to kinda talk about. So, I think for both of us, we realized something, at that time when we were going through our divorce, that divorce wasn't the only thing that was the ending, right? It
No.
it just was the one that kind of, was the loudest,
Yes.
but it certainly wasn't the only thing, the
Mm.
only ending.
No, it wasn't at all.
Yeah.
Wasn't at all.
Yeah. So I think we can maybe talk about or share a little bit about what might be some endings, right? What are some things that may have to end or you may have to look at kind of, ending as you're kind of going through life, as you're going through a divorce, as you're going through, heartbreak, as you're thinking about a move in your, career or your business. One of the necessary endings is, I think, ending what I would call like old stories, right? So the things that you keep telling yourselves over and over and over again, like a broken record.
Definitely, definitely. I am the main one that needs to stop replaying or revisiting my old stories. And it's ironic that you mentioned that because I was reading something recently that said, let's start from here on forward. Let's stop
Mm,
going in the back,
that
pulling out that old decrepit luggage and way of thinking and weighing yourself down
yeah.
because then you can't even go anywhere. Let's start to reframe. you know, Oftentimes people get, accustomed to saying refrain, but I think it's so appropriate. Let's change the way that we perceive our future.
Mhm.
Let's change the way that we interpret relationships, arguments, disagreements. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Lo and behold, I get into a disagreement or argument. It's the end of the world. I don't ever want to talk to you again. I am gone. And that is not healthy.
It's not
So
healthy.
I had to really change that. Friendships, relationships, the way I dealt with like these crisis situations, arguments, so on and so forth,
Mhm. Mhm.
only to realize, and this is the thing, only to realize that I could not grow as much as I thought I wanted to grow until I understood the inherent limitations,
Yeah.
my way or the highway, toxic friendships that I was comfortable within and had grown accustomed to,
Mhm.
just for no reason,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
being open to somebody trying to bring me to a whole nother level,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so a lot of like you said, that was excellent. I mean, I think that a lot of those old stories, we do have to end, and a lot of that always thinking about something's happening to you, right? As opposed to maybe it's just something that's happening.
yes,
Um, you
yes.
know, if you're in the dating arena thinking that, you're too old or, I can't trust anybody. I'm never going to trust anybody
Oh,
again.
yes. You're fine as wine.
Right.
That's
All
right.
the good ones are gone, you
Yes,
know.
fine as wine.
Yeah, just stop the old stories. Like
Yes,
we like you said, moving
yes.
forward, like here on. So yeah, so that's I think one. What's another necessary ending you think?
Let's see. The way that you choose to spend your leisure time. Quite often, I would go to a local bar, local pub whenever I was single or after my divorce. I'd
Mhm.
sit there by myself and just sharing verbal jags, and because of the setting, I end up drinking a beer or having a cocktail, whatever. Well, now, like for example, yesterday, we went to Avalon in
Mm.
Alpharetta, one of our day dates. We walked around, did a little bit of window shopping. It was a real awesome atmosphere. We ended up having dinner, Thai,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, that was a nice
If you
restaurant.
want to get on Lisa's best side, take her out to eat. Yeah,
Oh, stop it.
take her out to eat.
I am a foodie,
So
so
I start doing that.
yeah.
I start golfing a little bit, walking, reading. I'm reading a phenomenal book right now too.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
started reading. These are things that I normally would not even do, Dr. Lisa. And
That's
since I've
good.
started doing these things, the peace, the clarity is
Yeah.
just so phenomenal. But beforehand, when I was just hanging in these toxic circles for no reason whatsoever, going to the local pub, how many conversations can you have there, right?
Mhm, mhm.
You're going to be forced to drink, eat unhealthy food. It's refreshing.
Yeah.
It is so refreshing.
Okay,
What
that's a
about
good one.
yourself?
That's a good one. Yeah, so are you asking me in terms of, like, familiar
What are you doing differently now
differently
that you
now?
didn't do before?
Yeah, so
One, you're hanging out with me. Good looking lad, right?
I cannot. Yes, that would be something new.
Hey.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, I'm exploring different things too. I mean, you mentioned golf, so we both, I think took that up. So that was something new.
What else?
I
Gardening. She
gardening.
forgot all
I
about
forgot
it.
about
Oh.
and the garden is doing so well.
Mm-hmm.
I have this huge zucchini. I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to put it on social media to show y'all.
Abnormal.
This huge zucchini grew out of my
Yes.
garden when
Yes.
last year I couldn't even grow a seed wouldn't even grow. And
Yes.
this year I have zucchini, we have cucumbers, we have tomatoes growing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the garden, that is something new. Gardening is new. Yeah.
We have a good friend. It's the gardening doctor.
Yes.
And I always tell her when things aren't growing, I tell her who to call. So
Yes.
gardening, golfing.
Gardening, golfing.
What else?
What else am I doing differently?
You've been
I think
exercising
I've been
lately.
exercising definitely more. What else? Wearing my hair different. I mean, I really kind of evolved, I
Yeah.
think, with my hair as well.
Yeah.
I do the braids, I have the natural look. I do sometimes the blowout and the straight look. So I think just
Mm-hmm.
experimenting with fashion, with my hair,
Change is
just
phenomenal.
change.
The
Yeah.
adrenaline rush just it's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
You have to try different things.
Definitely. Definitely. So I think another necessary ending is you know, carrying around like old identities.
What is that? What exactly does that
So,
mean?
like, for me, my identity for all that time, especially during the bulk of my marriage, because right before I got married, I became a doctor, right? So, and then
Okay. Okay.
20 plus years that kind of spanned that. So, my identity was really in that, like being a doctor, a wife, a caretaker, a mom, like all
Wow.
those things. And after I got divorced, I mean, I was still a doctor, but, I wasn't a wife anymore at that point in time. My kids were older, so my identity shifted, you
Mm.
know?
Mm.
Even in my role of being a physician, I was a more seasoned physician, so I had more experience. So what was I
Okay.
gonna do with that now? So I think
Mm.
definitely we have to look at, shifting identities sometime or not holding on to old ones and exploring what could be new ones. You
Yes.
know?
Yes. I
Like,
think.
just releasing it, letting it
Mm-hmm.
go.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think you kind of forced that on to me to a certain extent. I just want to let you know I'm aware and very cognizant of it. But again, I had to change and I had to be
Ah,
receptive to that.
yes.
Apparently, as my mate, she saw far more potential in me, just, above and beyond the things that I do, with my eyes closed.
Mhm.
And as I indicated a moment ago, I'm reading. uh, that was one of her deals, right? Actually taking a class right now. It's been a
Oh.
long time since I've taken a class. And do you guys know how scary that is? At
Mm.
the age of 60 to be sitting in somebody's class? Oh my God. What? But I did it because I had to pull myself out of this rut. And I've set
Mhm.
certain goals for myself that are much higher than what they were, in the
Yeah.
past. And that's the type of thing you have to do just to kind of you know.
Mhm. I'm
So
proud of you, honey.
traveling, reading books, taking
Yeah.
classes,
Yeah.
exercising,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know,
It's all growth.
and, you know,
Yeah.
phew, man.
Oh,
Is there
stop
anything
it.
else you want me to do?
Oh, stop. You're cooking. You're cooking.
Oh, yes.
Wait,
Oh,
you made some
yes.
I have to say this. He made some phenomenal organic oatmeal raisin cookies. Now,
Yes.
this man never bakes,
Not a thing. Not a bean, not a noodle, anything.
but they were so delicious.
Yes, yes. And you
So,
know what? It was so refreshing. Real quickly, I had a medical situation, right? And I had to really pay attention to that, right? When we get to the ages of 60, etc. Come on, man. We have to start checking out the prostate, the cholesterol. It's not as if we didn't need to do it beforehand, but more so.
mhm.
Above and beyond that, we had an earlier podcast, Behind the Boss. I realized that my wife was just doing far too much. She did it so skillfully, but I realized, hey, listen, you don't have to learn how to cook oodles and noodles, something, because you're going to burn your wife out, right? So
Oh,
I just kind of, start little, small.
yeah.
And it's a wonderful experience. It's just kind of refreshing, but
Mhm.
that whole growth thing, right?
Yeah.
Cooking, exercising, reading. I mean, it's not going to kill us, right?
No, and you made some awesome salmon the other day too. It was
Yeah.
really good. It was
Oh,
really
she just
good.
be on the couch, falling out. But come on, let's go now.
All right. So let's go on to another ending. So we already
Yes.
talked about the ending of what's familiar comfort. I think we covered that with the
Mhm.
friends and places and habits. So what about also the ending of needing to make sense of the past?
Oh,
So this
yeah.
is really huge because sometimes I think for some of us, right, we never get to closure
Mm.
because we are just questioning the past all the time or
All the
looking for
time.
answers, trying to solve what happened and why did it happen and all of those
Oh,
things. But sometimes healing begins when you stop looking for answers,
you're
right?
right.
Like it happened. Um, can you learn from it? Definitely, absolutely. We all should learn, from things that happened in the
Yeah.
past. But to keep asking yourself the why and ruminating in your head over and over and over again why something happened, trying to make sense of it, sometimes we have to let go and let God. Like, just give it over to Him.
Yes. I mean, because what happens, and I was like, just this was my deal. I did this so much, always trying to clarify and understand the things that transpired in my early childhood, etc.
Mm,
Right.
mm,
And it just gives those things a right to exist in your livelihood.
mhm,
And again, I was reading this, so actually taking this class, and it said, hey, listen, it's time out for those things. There's no need to bring those things up to justify your stance or position in life or whatever. Let's look at that. Let's look at those things that transpired differently. If
mhm,
those things hadn't happened, I wouldn't be who I am. I appreciate more these other things that are helping me grow. But
mhm,
those things had to happen. They had a place at one time, and that's the reason why they happen, as opposed to trying to substantiate,
mm,
lack of achievement or whatever by
yeah,
dwelling on these things. I
yeah,
mean, you're never allowing yourself to grow. And that's what we're talking about.
yeah,
Ending,
yeah,
this thought process, this thought, the woe is me, so on and so forth.
mhm,
Ending this negative little mindset that you're not even aware that you have,
mhm.
But Lisa, she let me know in a very, whoo, way.
I
She let me
appreciate
know,
it.
like, brother, let's get it together, right? And I needed that. I needed that. So,
Yeah, yeah,
so yeah, so let's put an end to that. It's
yeah,
all about us. It's all about growing. It's all about being a better you,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, so I think, I think it's really important to kinda, look at those things, what might be some like I said, we talked about some endings or some things that we kinda need to be, aware of, and I think the
Yeah.
last thing that we want to talk about is
What's that?
Stop being fearful of having to make decisions.
Fearful of having to make
Yeah,
decisions.
so end that. End the fear of making decisions about what your next step is in your life, your relationship, your business, like whatever it is. In the fear, right? You have to. Because
Yes.
if you're fearful of making that move or, taking the next step or again ending something so that, your blessings and abundance can come into your life, you're going to stay stuck in
Gonna-
that place.
You're going to stunt your growth.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely, positively stunt your growth.
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes maybe some questions that you want to ask yourself. So we'll just leave these with you. What story do I keep repeating? What do you keep telling yourself over and over again that you need to kind of let go of? Right? What version of you keeps showing up over and over again that no longer serves you?
Mm, mm,
What am I still carrying that belongs to my old life
wow.
in the past? And
Mhm.
why are we still carrying it? Right?
Yes.
What have I outgrown but refuse to admit that I've outgrown it?
Amen. Amen.
And sometimes that's because we're looking for approval from other people, right? As
Yeah.
to why we
Yeah.
don't do that. But yeah, but we
Hmm.
have to really admit when we've outgrown something, right? Or someone sometimes even. Yeah. So these are some hard questions,
They are. They really
right? I
are.
think some hard but necessary.
Yeah.
But necessary
There's
questions.
things that we have to deal with to get to a better place.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
when we deal with a lot of these things that we've spoken about here today, those are some of the inherent roadblocks that's impeding or infringing on our ability to go to say yes again, to say
Mhm.
yes again to a new friendship, say yes again to a new marriage, saying yes again to a new relationship.
Mhm.
It's a lot of this underlining stuff that we really don't realize that we need to get a handle on, right?
Yeah.
CEO mode, put it on the chopping block. Friendship, toxic relationships, toxic family. Put it on the chopping block. Is this good for me? Is this good for me in terms of where I'm going or growing into? And if it's not, make a decision. CEO
Mhm.
mode.
Mhm.
Put it behind you. Keep it moving.
Yeah.
Because then and only then are you going to be able to, occupy that space, make that exponential growth that you yearn for,
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yes, because sometimes the hardest endings in life aren't the ones that life forces on us, right? Sometimes they're the ones that we have to choose, like you mentioned, friendships,
Yes.
business, relationships, right? All those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a lot of times we have to choose, to really just end those things, especially again, like in situations where we're going through a divorce, heartbreak, things like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Um, a lot of times also we have to think about ending the version of ourselves that believes that, the struggle is enough, right? That just surviving is enough,
Oh, no.
right? That getting through the day to day is just enough. And it's not. All that does is bring you stress and strife. It doesn't help you grow. It doesn't help you thrive. It doesn't lower your stress level. It doesn't help you to expand those possibilities. And I think those were some things that really helped, me as I was going through this process of, yeah.
For me, to negate the possibility of being victimized by a state of complacency is I always revisit and reassess my goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll make the career goals, the physical goals, the whatever. You
Yeah.
always want to continue to refine yourself by making goals that, they're not insurmountable, but they're just above where you are right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're getting
Absolutely.
you incrementally closer to your ultimate goals,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so this is some good stuff, So we're
I
not
think it's
here to say
phenomenal.
that, endings don't really hurt because they do, right? They bring a certain,
Yeah,
emotion,
they're painful.
very painful. Because again, a part of us has to kind of, you know,
Adapt.
adapt and kind of leave, or, part of us has to die with that, right?
But what happens when you have to adapt, Dr. Lisa?
Yeah.
What happens when you have to come face to face with change?
Mm-hmm.
Growth.
Definitely.
Growth.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
I think that what saying yes again really is, it's not just about saying yes to another person. It's saying no to the things that no longer deserve to take up occupancy in your space,
Mm.
right? We're not trying to put anybody down or be nasty or whatever, but in
Yeah.
order to occupy this space that's taken you some 40, 50 years to grow and to glow, you have to take an assessment of those people who are dining at the table. And
Mhm.
when I chose to, carry on and try to make these high achieving goals, I had to really take inventory.
Mhm.
Do I want to continue not to take classes, not to read, not to exercise, not to change the way I eat?
Mhm.
Because if I don't make these changes, we all know that, the
Yeah.
ending of that situation, right? Of
Yeah.
course, this
And
was not
some
going to let me.
some growth is also, difficult. So,
Yes.
especially if you're entrepreneur, like if you're in a high stake career,
Hmm.
we're building this brand and everything. So it takes a lot of time
Oh, yes.
and it takes a mindset of growth.
Yes. Yes.
Um, it takes a lot of courage,
Patience,
patience,
humility.
all those things. So you
Oh,
really can't have, things that are blocking you,
no.
in order to be able to get to, success in those areas.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
You don't need any extra baggage.
Yeah.
You need to just get in this thing and just go for it.
Yeah.
There'll be some sleepless nights. There'll be some tiring nights. There'll be some trying days. And
Mhm.
sometimes you and I might bump heads, whatever.
Mhm.
But we have one goal and one goal only,
Mhm.
is to sprinkle our saying yes again to everyone. We
Yeah.
want everybody to understand in the right state of mind that
Mhm.
they have the ability to control the narrative with reference to them saying yes again.
Yeah.
Just like Dr. Lisa and I did. Again, she was married for 25 years. I was with in my previous relationship for some 7 years, you know?
Mhm.
So whole different life situation.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we
Yeah.
had to roll up our sleeves and decide whether or not we wanted to throw the towel in or we wanted to occupy the space we're occupying now. Right? Saying
Oh
yes again.
god. So we want to just leave you with one question.
There we go. What's the question, baby?
What part of your old life are you still carrying into your new one?
Oh, that's a good one.
Mm,
That is a good one.
right? Because before, like Tony said, before you start to say yes again to someone else or finding someone new, maybe it begins with just having the courage to finally let something or someone go.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
So this has been an
Mm.
amazing episode.
Oh,
I love this discussion with you,
totally
honey.
amazing.
So hopefully, you all that are listening was able to take away something from
Yes,
this because we really wanted to talk about being in the space where you can open up your life to hopefully, all the blessings that we know that God has in store for you.
definitely. And more importantly, if you find value in what we have to share with you today, please share with a friend, a neighbor, a
Mhm.
relative. Suggest that they tune in and subscribe so
Yeah.
that we can continue to communicate with everyone, right? We
Yes.
want to touch as many lives as possible. And how
Absolutely.
can they be privy to our episodes and
Yeah.
where can they find us, Lisa?
So I would say first go to our website. So that's
Yes.
sayingyesagain.com. On
Yes.
there, you will find previous episodes, links
Yes.
to our various platforms and channels where we have the podcast: Apple, Spotify, iHeart, and YouTube. We also have a newsletter you can sign up for, email
Oh,
list,
yes.
as well as a new bonus as well that's as available on our website. It's a starter kit, which is going to help you through the saying yes again journey.
That's phenomenal. That's
Hmm.
phenomenal.
Yeah. So until next time.
Yes. Thank you for tuning in, Dr. Lisa, and I really appreciate your support. And we look forward to sharing more episodes with you weekly.
Yes.
Right? All right.
Yes.
Have a good one.
Take care.
All right. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.